Hello, Amanda here with Chicago Detours. We're talking Chicago blues today as we come to the close of Black History Month. So, of course, the goal of having a Black History Month or a Women's History Month is to really be able to showcase the histories that don't get as much attention as they actually deserve. So our goal, of course, is to make this so that we're celebrating Black history all the time, which is something that we have been doing for the past decade. We designed several years ago a tour, a Jazz, Blues, and Beyond tour. And what I would like to do is tell you just a little bit about how we went about developing that in a way that would really share different perspectives. And I'm going to share a few of my resources with you that are kind of fun. And also I'm going to take you on Google Maps to share with you the places that you can go to today to explore Chicago blues history. And I also have a very fun and exciting element of news in that regard too that I'm going to leave towards the end. So to start out, when I started designing the Jazz and Blues tour, I found that there wasn't a ton of written history. I mean, there is a Chicago blues history book, which is the #1 resource for it. But when we're talking about cultural history, we really want to dig into bigger ideas and how music was created, how people came together, how it influenced others, and how the business worked. And a lot of times with music history, it tends to be a little bit more focused on the dates and the names, and this person played here, and things that people specifically that are really, really into that kind of music get into. But I wanted to make Chicago music history something that would be accessible and open to everyone. So I had to get creative in how I came up with my stories and had to do some digging. So here are a few of the resources that I used in creating this. So this is going to be a, oops, on my, let's see here. Oh, there we go. So this is going to be a vintage magazine. It was all about the blues. Now, because Chicago blues was going to be what was so famous at the time, it is going to be that a lot of what was included in these magazines were specific to Chicago. And I got some great real life kinds of stories about Maxwell Street, which is going to be the old market where a lot of blues musicians were performing. I got from these books, or these magazines rather. So I did some scholarly research too, looking at essays, but most of all, a lot of times our best resources are other human beings. And I spoke with Barry Dolans, who had created and led our Chicago Blues Festival for 20 years. Man wrote an entire dissertation on the blues. I spoke with Delmark Records, big name in Chicago blues. They got a lot of the recordings from Chess Records, which I'll talk about in a moment, and spoke with musicians as well. I am going to share with you here really quickly a few screens to give you an idea of some of the other musicians and people that I talked with. So it seemed like on the scholar part of things, I talked with some various journalists in music. And then I also really wanted to have a musician be a part of our tour. And in fact, we had a blues musician who would come on board and teach everybody how to play blues harmonica. And Fruitland Jackson here is going to be our musician of choice. And this man has been dedicated to making the blues and educating people about the blues for so much of his life. He is awesome with the guitar. He would come on board with his guitar and he would have his harmonica holder here and really get people excited about learning how to play harmonica. And he was really awesome to work with. And then we also had someone who was a really awesome educator in particular, and that would be Fernando Jones. And he actually founded the Blues Camp, which you see pictured here, a nonprofit to educate youth on how to play the blues. So it was called Blues Kids, was his program here. And Fernando, of course, is a musician himself, and he teaches at Columbia. So we collaborated with them, got the stories, and then most of all, used a lot of different kinds of quotes and different sources in the tour, as well as video, to be able to diversify the voices that were shown. So I've never called myself an expert on music history. I am a curator. I am more like a documentarian. So I am going to piece together a lot of different resources to be able to really share all the different perspectives on that music history. So next up, I would like to take you around to Chicago to some of the major sites of music history that we have shared over the years. And of course, on our blues tour, we talked about the Great Migration, which, you know, is something that luckily today youth are educated about this. But for most anyone who is over the age of 30, they were not taught much of anything at all about the Great Migration. So in case you were not taught about the Great Migration, this was the movement of Blacks from the South to the North. This is going to be during a time in which there was incredible demand in the factories and a chance to get a better life in the North. And then there were also horrible things going on to persecute Blacks, to make opportunities not open to them in the South. So the movement to the North, of course, meant that musical traditions were brought here. Now, we talked about jazz in our previous video, and you know, it's interesting that people lump together jazz and blues so much, because really the only thing that they have in common is that they originate out of Black culture, but they're very different kinds of music, very different backgrounds to them. And on that tour, we would really go into what is the difference between jazz and blues. So here we are, we're talking today about blues, and we're going to start out at the absolute mecca for blues. This is going to be Chess Records, obviously. Chess Records, if you didn't know, there is going to be this plaque right here by the door, 2120 South Michigan Avenue is where this is located. Chess was originally the two Chess brothers. They were Polish Jewish brothers who had a very long, complicated last name, and they anglicized it to be Chess. And they had a nightclub in Bronzeville. And Bronzeville is going to be really where the heart of Black culture was. They called this area the Black metropolis back in the day. And a lot of Jews owned businesses there, because if we think historically, there were all kinds of ways in which different cultural groups were prejudiced against one another. But unfortunately, there were going to be a couple groups that a lot of people were prejudiced against, and that was Blacks and Jews. So they did a lot of business together. And in Bronzeville, there were plenty of these Jewish-owned businesses. The Chess brothers had a nightclub, and then they said, hey, we can make more money if we were recording these artists, rather than having the overhead of the club and all of that. And they ended up, of course, creating this Chess Records. Now, you can actually see in this image a tour group visiting this building. Now, what's happened is that Chess Records was here, and then it was abandoned for a period of time. And then actually Willie Dixon, who, let me change my angle here and we'll be able to see a picture of him. So Willie Dixon, he was a songwriting machine for, let me go into a different year, what I think will help. Songwriting machine for Chess, and he actually had some lawsuits. You can see his picture and a silhouette of him. He loved playing the upright bass. He very much was involved in writing a lot of songs, and other musicians ripped him off, one of those including Led Zeppelin. And he got some good money for the rights to his music, and ended up buying this building after it had been abandoned by Chess Records. But this is going to be where all kinds of blues greats recorded. You've got Coco Taylor recorded with Chess Records. You have Muddy Waters, and of course, even the Rolling Stones recorded here, because they were particularly emulating Chicago blues, right? Now, Chicago blues, what does it even mean? It means that you're taking this very sort of migratory music that was based around very portable kinds of instruments, And what happened was people, instead of rolling from town to town like a rolling stone looking for a job, what happened is that there was a fixed life that people could have here in Chicago, and they got to have some heavier instruments added to their music. By the way, we are traveling to another site of chess records that less people know about, just a few blocks away, actually. But what happened is, does anyone happen to know what musical instruments I might be speaking of, talking about less portable musical instruments, perhaps. So I'm having a delay here on my feed. Let me see if I can refresh it. So while I'm waiting for anyone to share that answer as to what musical instruments might have been less portable that were added to the Chicago Blues Kit, I am going to show you here. This is going to be another location for chess records. Came after, and they actually do call this building Chess. You can see right, let me zoom in here, Chess Lofts right there. So this building doesn't get as much attention because it actually is going to be Muddy Waters. What is considered to be his worst album was recorded right here. And now it's going to be, oh, very good. All right, we've got Bonnie says electric. Yes, the electric amplifier for the guitar. So the electric guitar was a huge aspect of the Chicago Blues Kit. And then secondly, the drum set. That is an incredibly not portable kind of musical instrument, and that is going to be a key part of your Chicago Blues Kit. So now let's travel here to another site of blues history, is going to be Rosas Lounge. So Rosas is here on the west side of Chicago. Let's look at a few images here. Rosas gets its name from, so the owner, I love the outside of this place. Look at how cool and fun. So the owner is Tony, and Tony is from Italy. And Tony, back in the 1960s, got the incredible opportunity to see Muddy Waters perform live. And he was absolutely went in Italian, they would say pazzo for the Chicago blues. And he came to Chicago, and he ended up opening up a club, and he named it in honor of his mama, Rosa. And this is going to be something to look forward to when the pandemic is done. Really such incredible character to this place, been around since 1984, and some of the my favorite blues acts like Billy Branch, he's considered to be like the maestro of harmonica. He performs here regularly. Now, let's come here to another spot. Oops, let's see, I got my wrong keystroke. So there is going to be a real common location for people to visit to experience the blues, is going to be on the north side, Kingston Mines. And I will talk about in a moment how much the inequality of our city is reflected in where these clubs are located, which you're going to notice the pattern here. So north side, you've got Kingston Mines. There's actually going to be another club called Blues on Halsted a block away. And Kingston Mines here is going to be a, having a little internet issue, I think. So Kingston Mines, having a blip in my internet connection, perhaps. So Kingston Mines, one of the things I love about Kingston Mines is going to be that you can get live blues the whole time. They have 2 separate stages, and that means that you're never waiting for the bands to have to move around. And here we go, I've got it now. And let's get back to our Kingston Mines. So here we go, live music 7 nights a week. They also have some pretty decent soul food there. And it is one of the things I love about this place is the mix of people you get there, because you're going to get college students who live in the neighborhood, you got locals, you'll get some tourists from around the world. and you'll maybe throw in a corporate group. You get people who are just diehard blues fans. Super fun place, and because of the two stages that are alternating, it's just nonstop excitement. So Kingston Mines, an absolute staple of the blues. Now, one place I'm not really going to talk about is going to be Buddy Guy's, and that's because it's touristy, and I would say it lacks the same amount of soul that the other places. But what is awesome about Buddy Guy's, which is closer to downtown, is that they have music at lunchtime. So we'll see though how any of this is going to roll out when the pandemic is done. So I am very excited to share some news with you. So I was going to talk about Lee's Unleaded, which is on the far south side here, Greater Grand Crossing neighborhood, or Grand Crossing. And this is going to be the real deal. And you are going to see that it says permanently closed. It has been closed for a while, and I always wanted to try to get a group to come down here because it's a very cool place, and never really worked out. It's not a very large venue, which makes it all the more awesome, right? Because then you really feel like you're having an intimate experience. So Lee's Unleaded, this is what the area looks like. So, it's near the railroad tracks. So it's got this kind of post-industrial vibe to it. And it seems, and it's been open off and on for decades, and the interior of it is just got that cool, real bluesy vibe, black painted walls. And the exciting news I have to share with you is that it is reopening. So we'll share a link here in the comments to an article that was posted last summer that actually Lee's has received a grant. There is a lot of push to help out businesses on the south and west sides. And Lee's has gotten a grant and is hoping to reopen in the late spring. Now, let's talk a little bit about the inequity, though, of Chicago. We have Lee's is going to be owned by a white man from Lincoln Park, which of course is going to be a wealthier neighborhood of the city. And despite that the blues really has its heart in Black culture, we have no blues clubs on the south side of Chicago that are open. And this really shows how much we do not have an equal ground in Chicago as far as business owners being able to get access to capital, as far as tendencies for people with money to be afraid to go to the South Side, which is really going to be a huge aspect of why I created the Jazz and Blues Tour in the first place. It has really been mind-boggling how I, over the years, have brought people who grew up in Chicago to the South Side for the first time in their lives. And it has been a mission of mine to show people how much history exists on the South Side and how much the stories of everyone have contributed to making the city great. So it's really exciting to see that the city is really trying to help out businesses in these other areas, because the fact that there is no blues club that is really truly open on the South Side is really a bummer. I mean, Buddy Guy's South Loop, I guess we could call it, but really quite close to downtown. So that link to that article is going to be in the comments there. And I hope that you enjoyed our quick little exploration of ways that you can explore Chicago blues in the city. I didn't mention that Chess Records is a museum today. And to be honest with you, there's not a lot of artifacts that are actually on display there. The recording equipment is long gone, and some of it actually does exist at Delmark Records, which you cannot personally visit. So it's a little bit spare when it comes to being a museum. And there has been over the years a lot of push to try to make a Chicago Blues Museum, and it just hasn't really congealed. So these are going to be some of your main sites where you can explore the history of the music today. And most of all, you can connect with there's one other location actually that I really want to share. And I can't tell you if what's going to happen to the I have a million things I always want to share when I do all this. I do not know what's going to happen to this location. You know, I do not have a crystal ball, but I can at least tell you about to add to your bucket list. One last little place is Bob's Blues and Jazz Mart. So Jazz Record Mart was actually a very crucial spot for both jazz and blues in Chicago. And Bob Kessler is the owner here. He is in his 90s and he is such a special treasure to blues history. This is going to be in the Irving Park neighborhood. So he closed Jazz Record Mart, which was in downtown Chicago a few years ago, and he's got his little record store and he's got piles of stuff that he's lots of records, lots of CDs, and most of all, one of the most fun things I did is I asked him to play his favorite record, and then I bought that one. So this is going to be in Irving Park. So give him a ring, ask him when he's going to reopen. So thanks so much for any support you might want to share on YouTube. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you get more videos from us. And thanks so much, everybody.